Deputy Catherine Murphy, can I acknowledge that Deputy Shortall and Deputy Murphy enjoy widespread respect across the House and wish you well in the next phase of your careers. Deputy Murphy.
Thank you very much, and thank you to Deputy Cullinan as well. I too want to utterly condemn the shooting of the policeman in Omagh last night. It was truly shocking and unacceptable. Our thoughts are for his recovery and for his family. We all hope that incidents like this were very much a thing of the past, and they're a constant reminder, or these things are a reminder that we can't take peace for granted. Taoiseach, at the end of next month, the eviction ban will expire unless it's decided to extend it. The first thing you do in a crisis is not make that crisis worse. There's a very real fear that that's exactly what's about to happen. We can all see that every week in our constituency offices. Housing and homelessness and the prospect of homelessness is the #1 issue. In January, nearly 12,000 people were living in emergency accommodation, and in Dublin alone, nearly 3,000 households became homeless last year. Increasingly, we're seeing people arriving at our offices in a panic. They might be a couple working and paying the rent, or an individual or family who qualify for the housing assistance payments if they could get their application processed. The conversation is not terribly different, whoever it is, and it's not unusual for people to end up in tears. They have a notice to quit and they can't find alternative accommodation, and even if they could, they can't afford it. They usually say to you that they think they never expected homelessness was something that would happen to people like them. They talk about the stress and the panic, often talk about how it's impacting their children. The ban on evictions has postponed the inevitable for many, but the cliff edge is getting ever nearer. Like so many TDs, I also see people who are desperately trying to deal with their homelessness. They often feel their lives are on hold. The stress and desperation is obvious. The loss of hope and independence is very real. It's not unusual to have someone tell you that they feel that they're a total failure. Taoiseach, in many ways, we've got to the stage where the outrage has disappeared and homelessness has almost become normalised, but there's nothing normal about it. When we're talking about the balance of rights, and I accept there is a balance of rights, those already in homelessness and those who are facing homelessness have to be seen as real people that are being both failed and damaged, and that has to be factored into that balance of rights too. Taoiseach, you need to tell us what exactly you're contemplating. Earlier this week, the Taoiseach said he's not convinced the eviction ban is working, and that's because he sees the numbers becoming homelessness have increased despite the ban. And I must say, I thought those comments were instructive. Most people assessing the situation would infer that without the eviction ban, the floodgates on homelessness would really be opened. What is a trickle would now become a torrent. So my questions are, do you now accept there's a need for an extension of the eviction ban? And if you don't accept that, what do you propose to put in place for the additional people that will become homeless? And why was it not planned? Because we knew this was a temporary eviction ban.
Thank you, Deputy. Taoiseach.
First of all, I want to wish the Deputy well, and this may or may not be the last occasion that we have an opportunity in questions on a Thursday morning, but I want to thank you for your courtesy and respect in your capacity as leader, and your colleague Deputy Shortall as well, and your commitment to the public good and the public interest as leaders of your party, and through very challenging times in COVID-19 and so on. I think you put the nation first ahead of your party, and I always appreciate that, and the public health interest in particular was always a key consideration of yours, and that I appreciated. Could I say in respect of the eviction ban, the government is examining this, not just from a legal perspective, but from a policy perspective also, because, and you've connected this to homelessness correctly, but the broader picture is supply of housing and supply of units for rental and to be rented. So the fundamental policy issue we have to consider is, if we extend it, and I don't think you could extend it for a short term, because we need to be honest with the market, we need to be honest with those who are renting as well. What would the impact on that be on supply? Would it make it worse? And I would put that honestly to you, Deputy. Politically, the simple sort of catch cry is extend the ban, extend the ban. and then worry about the consequences later, or indeed the consequences will be the government's problem and the government's fault, in the sense that what policy research coming back is saying, you risk reducing supply, and you risk increasing rents as a consequence of reducing supply, and you make the matters worse. Now, obviously, the parallel with that, we've got to increase supply through building houses. The state is the biggest actor in house building at the moment. Through financial supports we're giving to approved social housing body, local authorities, the cost rental schemes, the Cree Conaha, Project Tussig. I mean, there's a variety of schemes, the Help to Buy, the First Home scheme, which is proving to be extremely popular with over 3,000 registrations now. 30,000 homes were completed last year. That's an increase of 10,000 on the previous year and the largest since 2008. On the other hand, there are the eviction ban did work during the winter. I would accept the point that during the winter period, and we had a particular argument over the winter period because of the crisis that was caused by the energy situation, which gave a very solid kind of legal basis to a winter emergency ban on evictions, because of the position that people found themselves in on a number of fronts, particularly on inflation and the energy crisis itself. So all of those issues will be evaluated by government, and we will make a decision prior to the expiry date of the ban. Of course, the new law that we introduced in the context of the eviction ban staggered the end of the protections afforded in the legislation out to June in order to ensure that there would be no cliff impact or cliff edge impact on the 1st of April. So we're giving this very serious consideration from a policy point of view. And we're mindful of some of the negatives that it could have on the wider sector.
Thank you very much for your good wishes on behalf of both Roisin and myself, and they're very much appreciated. Like, when this eviction ban was put in place, there was a recognition of an emergency, and it was said at the time that it's one thing putting an eviction ban in place, but you need to plan for if this eviction ban is going to end, and it was time limited. And it doesn't feel like there is a plan of action for the end of this. And as I said, in a crisis, the number one thing is you don't make that crisis any worse. And I accept that this is complex, but the impact that this is having on individuals in relation to the panic that they're seeing coming down the road is very real. And certainly I'm seeing people coming into my office daily, worried, can't find anywhere, and the impact that it's having. They don't see any hope in this. They don't see a plan out of it. So we do need to know, if you're not going to extend that ban, what are you going to put in place for the immediate in relation to where people are going to live and what supports are going to be there for them?
As I said, a key consideration has to be the likely impact of any extension on supply. I mean, recent data shows that about 21,000 home sales last year involved landlords selling their property, while just 7,500 homes were bought by landlords. Now that means a net loss of 13,500 to the rental stock. You've got to ask yourself the question, why are the smaller landlords leaving the market in droves? And research is indicating we have a whole range of rent protection zones. They came in, I think, in 2016, initially, then extended in 2019, 2020. The issue of trust is vital. So we have to be very clear in terms of what we're doing in terms of this decision. And I'm sharing these issues with the Oireachtas now because it has to go beyond the catch cry of you're the uncaring government that wants to do X, Y, and Z, and we're the people who are apple pie, etc., etc. I mean, there's a real issue here. We could make this much worse, is the point I'm trying to make. We want to build up supply, and we're doing it. We're up to 30,000 because of last year. But there's a real issue because a lot of people are saying, but by the way, there's other consequences as well.
Time is up, Taoiseach, please.
Up to a couple of hundred coming back into the country who need to go back to their own homes, who are working on behalf of the state. A lot of issues here that we've got to work out, and we can discuss.